Title: Subterranean Descent. I had always been fascinated by the eerie allure of subway tunnels. The darkness, the distant hum of the approaching trains, and the occasional graffiti that adorned the tunnel walls always sparked my curiosity. Little did I know that one fateful night would turn my fascination into a terrifying obsession. It was a particularly chilly evening when my life took a sinister turn. I had just finished my late-night shift at the office and was in a hurry to catch the last train home. The station was eerily deserted, which was unusual for a bustling metropolis like ours. An ominous silence enveloped the platform, broken only by the soft echoes of my footsteps as I made my way to the end of the platform, where a solitary subway car awaited. As the train came to a halt, I stepped inside and was immediately greeted by an unsettling sight. The interior of the subway car was bathed in a dim, sickly green light, and the seats were tattered and torn, as if they had borne witness to countless journeys into the unknown. The doors slammed shut behind me with a finality that sent shivers down my spine. I tried to shake off the unease that had settled in the pit of my stomach and took a seat, glancing at the other passengers. To my surprise, there were 3 individuals sitting across from me. They were all dressed in antiquated clothing, their faces obscured by the shadows cast by their tattered hats. It was as if they had stepped out of a different era, their presence in this modern subway car anachronistic and unsettling. The train began to move, and the rhythmic clatter of its wheels against the tracks filled the air. I dared to steal another glance at the mysterious passengers, only to find their gaze fixed on me. I couldn't see their eyes, but I felt their collective stare boring into my soul. I decided to ignore their unsettling presence and focused on my surroundings instead. The tunnel walls whizzed past, occasionally illuminated by flickering fluorescent lights. The silence on the subway car was deafening, broken only by the eerie sound of the wheels on the tracks. As the minutes turned into hours, I realized that something was terribly wrong. The train should have reached my stop by now, but it showed no signs of slowing down. Panic began to gnaw at the edges of my sanity, and I turned my attention back to the mysterious passengers. They hadn't moved an inch, their gaze never wavering. It was as if time had frozen around us. Desperation and fear welled up within me, and I stood, determined to confront the strange trio. As I approached them, the lights in the subway car flickered and dimmed, plunging us into an even deeper darkness. I stumbled forward, feeling as though the very air had thickened around me. A voice, cold and otherworldly, emanated from the trio, sending a chill down my spine. "You should not have come here," it whispered, as if the words were spoken from the depths of the earth itself. I recoiled, but it was too late. The subway car had plunged into an abyss of darkness, and I was trapped with the enigmatic passengers. With each passing moment, the train hurtled deeper into the bowels of the earth, its clatter becoming a deafening roar that reverberated in my bones. I had no choice but to return to my seat, paralyzed by a growing sense of dread. The eerie trio across from me seemed to relish my fear, and a sinister laughter, hollow and mocking, filled the subway car. It echoed in my mind, a haunting sound that refused to be silenced. As the train descended further into the abyss, the tunnel walls transformed. They no longer bore the familiar graffiti, but instead, they were adorned with grotesque murals. Twisted faces, contorted in agony, leered at me from the walls, and I could feel their anguish seeping into my very soul. The air grew heavy with the stench of decay, and I struggled to breathe. I couldn't tell how much time had passed, for the concept of time itself had become distorted in that nightmarish subway tunnel. I could no longer distinguish between reality and delusion, and I found myself trapped in a never-ending nightmare. The enigmatic trio continued to taunt me, their whispers and laughter echoing in the darkness. They spoke of unspeakable horrors, of ancient entities that dwelled in the depths of the earth, waiting for foolish souls like me to descend into their domain. As the train hurtled further into the abyss, I began to see grotesque shapes moving in the shadows, things that should not exist in the realm of the living. They slithered and slinked, their twisted forms defying all reason. I clutched my head, trying to block out the horrors that assailed my senses. My own reflection in the dimly lit subway car window revealed a face contorted by terror. I was no longer the person who had stepped onto that ill-fated train. I had become a mere shadow of my former self, consumed by fear and despair. Suddenly, the train screeched to a halt, throwing me against the seats. The lights flickered back to life, revealing a nightmarish sight. The subway car had come to a halt in a cavernous chamber deep beneath the earth. The walls were lined with countless skeletal remains, a macabre mosaic of death. The enigmatic trio rose from their seats, revealing their ghastly visages. Their faces were skeletal, their eyes empty voids that seemed to draw me in. They extended bony hands toward me, their fingers elongated and twisted. The voice, that same cold and otherworldly voice, spoke once more, "Welcome to our world." I tried to scream, but my voice had abandoned me. I was paralyzed, unable to escape the grasp of these unearthly beings. As they drew closer, their skeletal hands brushed against my skin, sending a searing chill through my body. The subway car door opened, revealing an even more horrifying sight. Beyond the door was a landscape of nightmarish proportions. A desolate wasteland, a realm of eternal darkness and torment, stretched out before me. In the distance, I could see the outlines of grotesque monstrosities, their twisted forms silhouetted against the inky blackness. The enigmatic trio began to pull me toward the door, their grip unbreakable. I fought with every ounce of strength I had left, but it was futile. As I was dragged closer to the threshold, I could feel the oppressive weight of the abyss pressing down on me, threatening to engulf me in its eternal darkness. With one final, desperate effort, I managed to break free from their grasp and stumbled back into the subway car. The trio let out a chorus of unearthly screams, their voices a cacophony of agony and rage. The door slammed shut, and the subway car began to move once more. I watched in horror as the cavernous chamber and the grotesque landscape beyond faded into the distance. The enigmatic trio had been left behind, but the memory of their chilling presence continued to haunt me. The subway car ascended from the depths of the earth, and as it reached the surface, I was bathed in the warm light of day. I stumbled out of the subway station, my body and mind scarred by the horrors I had